Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group 7. We are going to talk about teacher and student use of the first language in foreign language classroom interaction. Okay, first of all, let me introduce the group members. They are Oktavia Dwi Lestari, Miftahunajah, Aditiya, Pratama, Ermalati Putri, Rana Fakhira, Unilasari, Nabilla Tasyaa, Thadya Azrielyani, Widad Mapandre, Azzahrah, and I, Tiara, Alya. Okay, the first material will be explained by Nabilla Tasyaa. For Nabilla Tasyaa, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the moderator. Next slide, please. Okay, first language use of the first language in the language classroom, the great debate. In contrast to early reference to the prohibition of all the first language used in the foreign language classroom, many closer are now arguing that the first language can be beneficial as a connective tool that aids in the second language learning. And they also argue that in favor of some sort of principle alternation between first and the second language used in the foreign language. It means that the research on the bilingualism and bilingual interaction outside in the classroom has become relevant for similar kinds of research in the classroom. And it is bilingual speaker in general which our learners aspire to emulate. So in this case, classroom policies must take into account patterns of language alternation found that in non-classroom bilingual communities. And one of the extremely common features of bilingual speech is code switching. Next slide, please. Okay, here we talk about first language, second language, and foreign language. In the classroom, the first language can be used in the language classroom. And one of the common features of the bilingual speech is code switching. Code switching we define as the systematic to combine the second language and first language in the classroom. And the foreign language also, the students between students and teachers can use code switching in order to they can communicate and understand about the learning process. And then in the context of the communicative approach in the learning process, both teachers and students need to be aware about about code switching. In this case, code switching can be used to be applied in order to they can understand the materials and they can understand the learning process about what they should do and what the materials that teachers and students in order they can communicate and get understanding about what the learning is. And however, in order to suggest that policy of the classroom, it must have research on the classroom about the code switching. And the gap of this chapter is this chapter is agree that the code switching are set strategy and cognitive purposes in the language acquisition process. And also the code switching function as the language learning process in order to become bilingual speakers. And okay, that's all for my part. The next speakers is Tiara. For Tiara, time is yours.
Okay, I will continue talking about code switching. So We can use code switching in the classroom activities. So code switching itself means we combine two language in the same situation. Code switching can be beneficial to learners. Many scholars have support some method of teachers-driven modeling of the desirable bilingual behavior. Like Castellotti and Mori argue that teacher code switching must be deliberate if it is to increase learner proficiency, and that teachers should decide in advance of a given lesson whether they are going to use the first language or not. Makporo also uh, focusing on vocabulary learning insists that applied linguistics should be working toward a theory of optimality for the use of code switching by the teacher. In other words, they that we have to provide, especially for less experienced teachers, a framework that identify when reference to the first language can be a valuable tool and when it is simply used as a easy option. Levini argues that instructors should seek to formalize the relationship between the first language and the target language in order to create, in essence, bilingual norms that tend to develop organically in multilingual environments outside the classroom. All of these arguments, however, focus on making the case for whether the first language should be used in the classroom as well as to what extent. By the contrast, we find in this chapter that when teachers make policies for the first language used in their classroom, a third factor needs to be considered as well, namely who is using the first language, that is whether it is the teacher or the students. Next will be continued by Thadya. For Thadya, time is yours.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the second material is about social cultural theory, composition analysis, and code switching. It is based on theory and method. So, social cultural theory, conversation analysis, and code switching are the importance of the nature of the interaction. In that, certain kinds of conversational movers. So here it is, according to Gumpers 1982, defines that this course allows to focus on details of the interaction, such as hesitation, cut-offs, and reformulation as meaningful in the interactions. So it also stresses the importance of the sequential nature of the interaction, so that certain kinds of conversational it will be moved. So here, sociocultural theory, it's such kind of theory which is used in some fields such as beliefs, religions, custom, norms, and etc. And the important thing is about views of life of the people in the area are different. So it is used to describe the awareness of the state of individual and how they behave in specific ways by their environmental, social and cultural factors. So which means that it is important to consider not just whether and to what extent the first language should be used, but also by whom it should be used. For example, there is a tradition in Java which is called by Selapan. Javanese people have a custom to perform the Selapan ceremony when a baby is 40 days old. And then, beside, in the context of first language use in the second or foreign language classroom, the conversation analysis inspired by this link can reveal correspondences between particular interactional or cognitive functions on the one hand. For example, in this millennial era, it is common in Indonesia if we use slang words to our friends. It is different case if we speak to the people who are older than us. So we have to be polite. While code switching here means that while we are mixing the language because we consider the listener, but still we know the meaning and the language. Next slide, please. Okay, here is a data from analysis that follows. It is still about socio-cultural theory, conversation analysis, and code switching. They are used in the classroom. So the concerns are here in the screen. The importance of the distinction between teacher and student code switching, and then the second concern is about whether or not the teacher needs to model natural code switching as it occurs among bilinguals outside the classroom. And the last concern is the search for principal guidance for both teachers and students concerning first language use. So the implication of this are that policies for classroom use for the first and the second language may in fact need to be different for students and for the teachers. Something that this slide seeks to show that between teacher and student have a correspondence. Okay, for the next material will be explained by my partner.
Okay, next slide, please. So here are about the analysis. The first part of the analysis will center around a use of code switching in the two classrooms that has only rarely been mentioned in the classroom literature on L1 use. These kinds of code switches have been widely discussed in research or non-classroom bilingual interaction, such as in their functions, a setting of an aside of marking, a shift in a different roles a given speaker can take up over the course of a conversation. So the first is both the teachers and students use L1 in these discourse-related ways, and it both content-based classroom and in the intermediate language classroom. An example of the teacher employing a discourse-related switch can be found in the following segment 1 from content-based classroom, in which the class tries to find a definition for the term gamified everyday language. So after an exchange in which the students discuss the concept of everyday language largely in German, the teacher used a discourse related to switch into English to mark a bit meta talk, for example, in line 5, which is literally a prayer to halt the conversation and bring it back to the original question. While English is used for this, teacher switches the right back into German and continues working on the definition of the term. It is therefore clear that the teacher in segment 1 used English to mark the contrast between language use to give an explanation and language use to bring students back to the topic. And then next slide, please. Okay, the second segment is as follow. In the second segment shows the X curve is from the student interaction in the context of group work. The student uses code switching to provide contrast between what he plans to say in an upcoming role play in German and then talk the setup of role play in English. All of the paraphrase utterances that the student will be saying in front of the class are in German, which are formed by English utterances for organizing the talk. While the obvious pauses might have been sufficient to contextualize these differences, these pauses are in fact how monolingual speakers tend to structure discourse in these ways. The code switch gives an additional tool for two types of talk from the perspective of the social culture theory, we can say that this use of the first language helps the interactions between students and establish intersubjectivity. And then the next slide, please. Okay, the third segment, the following segment 3 from the teacher-student interaction in advanced content-based classroom also contains a discourse-related switch performed by students. For example, in line 3 and 4, during a discussion of an article the students have read, this segment involves several different use of the first language whose function we discussed. And then the teacher's turn uh, is in German, for example, in line 1 and 2. And however, the contrast with the teacher's turn in that the situation uses English. The switch has a discourse-related function in that it lets the student indicate a halt to current discussion and flag a problem with a term discussed previously. Next slide, please. Okay, the next segment is segment 4. It also focuses on language choices of teacher and student, discussing one type of conversational move used by the teacher that helps answer the questions about strategies teachers can employ that facilitate auto use by students. In this segment, the teacher consistently responds in target language, while this sort of behavior is extremely for non-classroom environments, where speakers tend to respond to their conversations code. It is quite typical for this particular classroom. And then next slide, please. Okay, the last segment shows that when the teacher uses German in her speech of students' utterances, students may in fact be encouraged to continue in German themselves. So the code switch in line 2, for example, it relates to the discussion earlier in that through this switch, the teacher provides an example of the function code switches can serve in bilingual communities. Okay, that's all. The next material will be presented by the next presenter.
Next slide, please. Okay, I would like to explain the last part, which is about classroom application and directions for further research. Okay, the first point is how code switching support learning. The finding in this paper here support that the work by previous scholar who have suggested that allowing both teacher and student to code switch in the classroom can support learning through scaffolding or the promotion of intersubjectivity. These are functions of code switching that are found in non-classroom learning situations as well, such as caregiver-child interaction. They serve important purposes both inside and outside the classroom. However, while the focus in the classroom literature thus far has often been on these learning specific participant related switches, we also find discourse related switches to be just as important in these classrooms, where they serve identical discourse structuring functions to those found in non-classroom bilingual communities, both for student and for the teacher. Just as learning specific switches can help students in the acquisition of second or foreign language, learning how to use code switching to structure discourse also strongly promotes the goal in language learning of aspiring to bilingualism in that it allows learners to interact as fluent bilingual speakers too. The next one is distinguishing code switching speaker. So in the analysis of the data, it is we find that it is important to distinguish between student and teacher code switching. Although the teacher in the content-based classroom favors the second language, even when the students are speaking the first language, The students nonetheless use code switching in ways that are not modeled by the teacher. These findings lead us to conclude that envisioning the foreign language classroom as a bilingual community does not entail saddling the instructor with the task of formally training learners to behave as bilinguals, or even modeling the conventional code switching norms found in non-classroom bilingual communities. In fact, burdening the teacher with the task of explicitly teaching code switching has limitations, since some of the code switches take on different meanings depending on whether the students or the teachers are performing them. Next point is how teachers promote target language. Something that we not only found in our data, but which is also supported by sociocultural theory. When teachers give students permission to use both languages during classroom interaction, they tend to use them in ways that promote both second language learning and bilingual language behavior. At the times when students do switch to first language for simple comfort reasons, the teacher can make use of make use of conversational moves such as second language translations of a student's first language utterance that can scaffold the student's use of second language and also encourage the student to use the second language for practice purposes. Teachers are free to promote the target language by maximizing their own target language use in the classroom, while at the same time making space for bilingual community of practice and the resulting naturalistic norms of code switching to develop among learners. And lastly, directions for further research. So in this chapter, uh, it, there is data from both advanced and intermediate classroom that suggests that learners use code switching in all of the ways bilinguals do, with both participants related to discourse related functions. Since it is clear that they are not doing this simply in response to teacher modeling, it seems likely based on these findings that even beginning language learners may well be using their first language in the same way as they begin practicing. So further research will be needed to confirm this hypothesis. Uh, Next slide. Oh, conclusion. So to conclude, in language classrooms, however, learning and practicing the second language is and needs to be the primary goal. The question then becomes how teachers can promote this goal without prohibiting first language use and sacrificing the kinds of classroom practices of first language use that serve important communicative and cognitive purposes for bilingual language users and learners. I think that's about it. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you for all of the presenters. We have already talked about teacher and student use of the first language in the foreign classroom interaction. So now I open question and answer session. If you guys have any question, please unmute your microphone and mention your name.
Aulia, please.
Antika, please.
Okay, Alya, please.
Okay, first of all, thank you for your great presentation. What I want, my name is Aulia is Uzana. My student number, my last 2-digit student number is 45. And what I want to ask is, does the target language used by the teacher encourage more than the target language used by student?
Okay, thank you, Alya, for your question. Now, one of the group members will answer the question, please.
Okay, I will answer Aulia's questions. Does target language used by the teacher encourage more than target language used by the students? The results show that the teacher used the target language as the most common language in their teaching, although the first language was also used. The teacher's choice of language in the classroom had an impact on the students, since teacher target language use encourage more than student target language use in the classroom, and that it is important to start the lesson in the target language to encourage more target language use by the students. Both the teachers and the students thought that the target language was important during language teaching. Alya Uzana, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question, please.
Chantika, please.
Okay, Chantika, you can answer a question. You can ask a question.
Okay, thank you for the chance. My name is Chantika Putri. My last two-digit numbers is 62. And my question is code switching deliberate or accidental? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One of the group members will answer the question.
Okay, I will try to answer Chantika Putri question. I think in my opinion, sometimes speakers flip from one language to another accidentally. But in many situations, code switching is done deliberately to both create unity or to exclude someone from a conversation. It is seen as a sign of solidarity within a group, and it is also assumed that all speakers in a conversation must be bilingual in order for code switching to occur. Bilinguals do not usually translate from the weaker language to the stronger one. Code switching is used most often when a word doesn't come. Did I answer your question, Chantika?
Yes, you did. Thank you for the clear explanation.
You are
Okay,
welcome.
thank you for answer and question. And now the next question, please.
Devita, please.
Jasmine, please.
Okay, Devita, please.
Okay, thank you for the challenge. My name is Devita Lestari. So, my question is, if you were a teacher, will you let your students to use code switching in the process learning and teaching, especially in teaching English language, or you try to force them to speak for second language only? Thank you.
Thank you. Please answer the question, one of the group members.
Okay, I will answer the questions. If I were a teacher, I will use the code switching. Because why? Because as we know that code switching is the process which we mix the language from the first language and the second language. As we know that our mother tongue is Indonesia, right? So it's possible for us to use the second language in the process learning and teaching in order to make the students to be able to try to speak the second language. So if I were a teacher, I will make sure that code switching is to be used in my classroom. Did I answer your questions, Devita?
Okay, thank you very much. So you use both code switching and second language.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next question, if you still have any question, please.
Jasmine, please. Jasmine, please.
Jasmine, you can ask a question, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Yasmin Azzahrah. I would like to ask, is it important for teacher to promote target language, and why is it important? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Please answer the question, one of the group members.
Okay, I will answer Jasmine question. Actually, many language teachers, especially those who are just beginning their career, express anxiety about using promote the target language in the classroom. So it is important. Why? Because the first is the use of the target language in the classroom greatly increases the students' exposure to to the target language. And second, by using or promote the target language in the classroom, students are receiving more comprehensible input to this leading to more complex language structure. And the last, using or promote the target language in the classroom can provide a source of modeling for the students, both in regards to the production of the language and the attitude toward the language. Did I answer your question, Jasmine?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The last question, if you still have any question, please mention your name.
Aulia Gusti.
Okay, Alya Gusti, you can ask the
Yes,
question.
thank you. My name is Aulia Gusti Army. I am from Palembang class and my last two-digit number is 47. And I would like to ask, in what conditions that do the teachers use code switching?
Thank you for the question. The question will be answered by one of the group members.
Okay, I will answer Aulia Gusti Armi's question. So in what conditions do the teacher use code switching? So when the teacher will use code switching when they want to make questions, and then when they want to show their unpleasant feeling, or they want to strengthen request or comment to the students, and or they want to do repetition like for clarification for a message, and also when they want to give an advice to the students, and also when they want to create humor. So when they want to try to make the class interesting, so they can do code switching. I think that's for the conditions that teacher use in code switching.
Thank
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Rana.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for all of you who has asking question. Maybe just all from our presentation and discussion for today. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.